During the Valorant India Invitational Grand Finals between Paper Rex and Team Heretic, two franchise teams, Paper Rex broke out Harbor on two different maps en route to a tournament victory. This has been the first major look at Harbor in Tier 1 play, with Paper Rex's Mind Freak showing what the new Indian agent can do. So will we see Harbor used consistently throughout the pro Valorant? Short answer, yes. Long answer, well, it's a little more complicated. Let's look at the Grand Finals and see how Paper Rex utilized Harbor. Paper Rex first picked Harbor on Fracture. This is honestly by far his strongest map. This would be their second selection of Harbor in the tournament, as they picked him on Fracture in the group stages against Boom Esports, where they dominated 13-1 with the composition of Harbor, Chamber, Phoenix, Reyna, and Fade. A truly unique team composition that probably won't be replicated too often around Valorant, as Paper Rex has always been known to experiment and follow their own meta. Their two duelists in Phoenix and Reyna make more sense, as they have more flashes and can push the tempo against the opposition. A more common pick would be Raze, but that wouldn't work in this composition with Harbor, as Harbor and Raze are similar in roles as both space creators that move with the main attack. That's why having a duelist with a flash works perfectly in combination with Harbor's unique smoke set as a controller. It allows the entry to be able to push enemies off the few remaining angles Harbor cannot cover, and be more self-reliant, unlike Raze, who just might be shot out of the air as she blasts into sight. But that being said, most teams would never use this composition outside of Paper Rex. So what might we see other teams play with Harbor? I believe Chamber will still stay a must pick, as well as Breach, even though Paper Rex chose Fade. While Fade is in no way a bad pick, Breach still has a better ability at pushing defenders off angles on Fracture that Fade cannot do on her own. I believe most teams will still pick Breach, maybe run two initiators with Fade as the second choice. As far as duelists, I believe that Phoenix or Neon are the only real choices as a solo duelist, as they have the ability to really take advantage of Harbor's abilities. Reyna can be a good second duelist like what Paper Rex did, but those teams must be ready to go hyper aggressive on both sides, which I'll show you right after we go over the second map. A map with similar characteristics as Fracture, Breeze. Narrow corridors and wide open sites, with A being just as annoying to defend on post plant as B site on Fracture. So this was another obvious one to try Harbor on. Paper X went with the normal meta picks of Chamber, Jet, Sova, while adding Jing on Reyna, which would normally be a second initiator like KO, and of course Mind Freak on Harbor. This is an interesting development, as Viper has been a must pick on the controller for a while now, with her having 100% pick rate at Champions. This comp will probably stick around, with KO or Breach taking the spot of Reyna as a second initiator, as I think two initiators on a map like Breeze is a must in order to have enough info to make smart decisions. So all this talk about team composition, but is Harbor even good on Fracture or Breeze? Well, let's look at his abilities in action. This is just a quick round, but it shows the beauty of Harbor's abilities. Paper Rex is looking to hit B, but wants to slow down any rotation by Heretic by creating uncertainty in A Hall to force Heretic to keep themselves split. This is where Cascade is great. As the round starts, Mind Freak sends it out through A Hall as he quickly turns to move with the main assault on B. As the Cascade moves up the hallway, it forces Boo to fault line to allow Mixwell to get the orb and fall back, giving up space as the Prowler moves through. With both Mixwell and Zeke behind the Cascade with no vision, Boo is only able to take a little bit of space and is unable to move up, and they are forced to commit 3 players to A Halls as 4 of Paper X move quickly to take B. Mind Freak sends out a high tide that I believe we will see a lot of when teams take B site, covering all pathways from Arcade, Generator, and Canteen. The job of 3 smokes for all other controllers, leaving only Tower uncovered, which unfortunately contained a ready Kellogg, who kills Mind Freak, leading to a trade with Paper X having full control. Before Mind Freak died, he threw out his Cove, which stopped any ability of Ova to get a kill through the smokes as they try to plant. Cove is perfect to combat any blind smoke kills, allowing Paper Rex to pick up the round. The next round I want to look at is an A attack. As Paper Rex starts their attack, Harbor sends out his High Tide, which blocks off ropes, link, and drop, which no other controller can do like Harbor, which allows Paper Rex to move forward towards site. Unfortunately, Mind Freak misses covering all of drop and allows Forsaken to be killed, which if you look at where he stands, starting his wall, he could have easily covered all of drop if he moved a little bit forward, showing that this is just an early mistake that will be fixed later. As Heretic starts to retake, Mind Freak uses his ult, which, while a lot of people have said his ult is terrible, it actually does a great job to keep the opponent off site. allowing Paper Rex to change their positioning and bring down the time. As the ult ends, Heretic tries to overwhelm Mind Freak on sight, but he picks up an impressive 3k. This is why Harbor will be picked more and more on Fracture, as he's able to cover drastically different angles with High Tide, as it has the additional ability to manipulate itself into unique corners and corridors that Fracture has. Which is the same reason why Paper Rex and other teams will use Harbor in Breeze as well. The second map, Mind Freak used him for. Mind Freak had been struggling with Viper in the past, and it made sense to switch to Harbor in order to see if there was any improvement. And right here in this round is why teams will start switching to Harbor going into next year. Let's look again at his High Tide ability. With a 25-second cooldown between the wall falling and when it's next usable, there's no reason on Breeze not to use the wall as soon as the round starts, just like Paper Rex does here. They use it to cut off sites in Cave and Shop, which creates uncertainty on whether the aggressive Paper Rex decided to move up and take space or not. It doesn't allow Chamber to move and take that space without anyone else. At the minute mark, he will have another wall ready, which he uses again within 10 seconds of having it back, covering off parts of mid, which actually stops any split attack from tunnel towards B like Mixwell was planning, as he has no idea if anyone is in mid, top, or nest, waiting for him on the other side of the wall, forcing a one-dimensional attack that eventually doesn't work. And if it did, by the time Mind Freak was set to join the fight on B, his High Tide would be recharged again, blocking off angles for his team. That is 3 uses of the High Tide, an ability that at times can work as 3 individual smokes throughout just the time before a plant. This is why Harbor is good. He has a Viper wall that he can manipulate to cover even more angles than Viper can, and can recharge every 25 seconds. This is what Paper Rex did all map, where they won 13-10 and won the whole tournament 3-1. Overall, Harbor is a very strong pick for both Fracture and Breeze, and as time progresses, we might realize he could work on other maps such as Ascent. But for now, picking Harbor on these 2 maps are good for more aggressive teams that want to be the ones always acting, such as Paper Rex. I could see teams like Team Liquid or NRG trying out Harbor soon as well.